Dolores Hart had everything Hollywood could give her. She was young, pretty, and people said she was like Grace Kelly. She got to act with Elvis Presley and became famous when she kissed him in a movie that everyone remembers. But before she turned 25, when her acting job was going really well, she did something that surprised the whole world. Dolores didn't just quit being famous. She left forever. And why she did this is a story that's sadder and more real than anyone thought. Growing up in two different places, Dolores Hart was born as Dolores Hicks on October 20, 1938 in Chicago, Illinois. Her world already had some Hollywood magic in it, but also had regular family problems. She was the only kid of Bert Hicks, a young actor who was still trying to make it big, and Harriet Hicks, his teenage wife. Their marriage had problems, and when Dolores was only 3 years old, her dad went to Hollywood to try to get acting jobs. He left behind a broken family and a little girl who would spend her life looking for love and trying to figure out who she was. Most of Dolores's early years were spent living with her grandparents in Chicago. They gave her a safe home and rules to follow, and they taught her about the Catholic Church. Her grandpa worked running movies at a local theater, and he gave her something special, a way to see the movie world. Little Dolores would often sit with him up in the movie room, where she sat surrounded by big movie reels, looking at the screen through the bright light. She remembered later that she thought her job was to wake him up when he fell asleep during long movies. But more than that, sitting there made her fall in love with telling stories. She watched quietly, learning how the movie stars moved, talked, and acted. She would copy them when she got home, without knowing she was getting ready for her own acting career. When Dolores was 10, she officially became Catholic. She said later that at first she didn't do it for spiritual reasons, but because she wanted the chocolate milk and donuts that Catholic kids got after church. What started with treats, though, slowly became real faith that got stronger over time and would later change her whole life. When she was 11, Dolores moved to Beverly Hills to live with her mom, which put her right in the middle of Hollywood. She went to Catholic schools and found herself really wanting to act. She tried out for parts while she was still in high school, even trying to get the part in St. Joan, the Joan of Arc movie that made Jean Saberg famous. She didn't get picked, but trying made her even more sure this was what she wanted to do. She knew that acting wasn't just something she dreamed about, it was what she was supposed to do. Her big break came in 1956 when an important movie maker named Hal Wallace saw how good she was and gave her a contract with a new name, Dolores Hart. Changing from Dolores Hicks to Dolores Hart was the start of her becoming a star. Just 1 year later, in 1957, she got her big chance acting with Elvis Presley in Loving You. Almost overnight, she went from a teenager copying movie stars in a projection room to being one herself. Her face was on the big screen and her name was suddenly known all across America. The kiss that changed everything. In 1957, the whole world was watching Elvis Presley's first color movie, Loving You. Playing Susan Jessup, the sweet girlfriend, Dolores Hart was stepping into fame in a way she never imagined. Halfway through the movie came a moment that made her famous everywhere. Dolores became the first actress to kiss Elvis Presley on screen. What was just part of acting for her became a famous scene that was shown in magazines, newspapers, and remembered by millions of fans. People were amazed by her. Movie reviewers said she was fresh, all-American, and naturally charming. This reminded them of Grace Kelly, while others said she had depth like Lauren Beale. Her friendship with Elvis wasn't just for work. Between filming, the two would talk quietly, often talking about faith and reading the Bible together. Even though people gossiped about romance, Dolores always said they were just friends. Still, the kiss made her special. And since Elvis was at the top of his fame, it made her unforgettable. Her career took off fast. She acted in Wild as the Wind with Anna Magnani and Anthony Quinn, showing she could work with experienced stars. The next year, she was in Lonely Hearts with Montgomery Clift and Robert Ryan, showing a soft side that proved her growing talent. In 1958, she worked with Elvis again in King Creole. This time she played Nellie, the sweet young woman who brought happiness to his troubled character's life. Many movie reviewers still think King Creole is one of Elvis's best movies, and people praise Dolores's acting for being real. By 1959, Dolores was doing more than just Hollywood movies. She started acting on Broadway in The Pleasure of His Company, a funny play that got her a Theater Award and a Tony Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. At just 21 years old, she had done more than many actresses do in their whole careers. Hollywood wanted to make her the next big leading lady. Movie studios offered her more contracts. Fashion designers wanted to make clothes for her, and her name started appearing next to some of the most famous actors of that time. But while her star was getting brighter, Dolores was already feeling that something about the Hollywood business didn't feel right to her. The clapping was loud, but the emptiness underneath it was starting to speak louder. Fame and the quiet call of faith. By 1960, Dolores Hart had become one of Hollywood's brightest young stars. That year, she got a main part in Where the Boys Are, a funny romance about 4 college girls on a spring break trip to Florida. The movie made lots of money and became important for that generation. Dolores's character, Merritt, was the thinking, serious young woman looking for real love while everyone else was having quick romances. The movie made her known as the smart beauty of her time, someone people could look up to and understand. More movie offers came in, but one movie more than any other would change her whole life. In 1961, she was chosen to play St. Clair of Assisi in Francis of Assisi. While filming in Rome, Dolores learned all about the story of a woman who gave up being rich to follow St. Francis and live a life of being poor and praying. She took the part very seriously, studying Claire's love for God and spirit. During filming, she even got to meet Pope John XXIII, who told her, "You are Claire." Those words stayed with her. The experience was so powerful that it woke up something deep inside her, something she couldn't ignore. At the same time, her career kept getting better. In 1962, she starred in The Inspector, also called Lisa, playing a Holocaust survivor looking for safety in Palestine. It was one of her hardest acting jobs emotionally, getting her praise from reviewers and showing she could do much more than play the sweet girl next door. Then came Fly With Me in 1963, a light funny movie about airline stewardesses, which seemed like another step in her glamorous career. She also appeared on TV shows, including The Virginian. By every measure, she was successful, admired not only for her beauty, but also for being good at many different kinds of acting. But underneath all the glamour, Dolores felt restless. She later said that Hollywood often felt like a machine. The clothes she wore, the men she was seen with, the words she said, much of it was written and packaged for her. Even though her career was doing great, she felt an emptiness that all the clapping and attention could not fill. Playing St. Clair had stirred something deep in her, planting the idea of a new kind of life, one far away from red carpets and flashing cameras. Love, doubt, and a heartbreaking choice. While her career amazed the public, Dolores's personal life seemed just as perfect. She had fallen in love with Don Robinson, a nice and successful architect from Los Angeles. Unlike the short romances of Hollywood, their relationship was real and steady. Don loved her, and in 1963, he asked her to marry him. Dolores said yes with joy. Wedding invitations were sent out. Plans were made, and Edith Head, the famous Oscar-winning designer, even made her wedding dress. To people watching, it looked like the perfect ending, a rising star with a great career about to marry the man of her dreams. But inside, Dolores was confused. Playing St. Clair and her visits to the Abbey of Regina Laudis in Bethlehem, Connecticut, had changed her. The monastery, with its quiet and simple life, felt like a second home. Each time she visited, it became harder for her to leave. By the time her wedding got close, the voice inside her, what she believed was God's voice, got too loud to ignore. She struggled with the decision in secret, torn between the life of love and safety that Don offered and the unknown path of faith. She later remembered walking in a terrible snowstorm to a hilltop cross near the Abbey. In that moment alone, she knew she had to make a choice. Finally, with a sad heart, she told Don the truth. She said to him, "I love you, but I feel God is calling me. I cannot ignore it. If you love me, you must help me." His response was amazing. Even though his heart was broken, Don didn't get angry or beg. Instead, he accepted her decision with quiet grace. "Every love has its secret," he told her. "And I knew what ours was." In one of the most painful but noble acts, Don drove Dolores himself to the Abbey gates. She took off her engagement ring, gave away her things, and walked into a new life, one that had no glamour, no applause, only silence and prayer. For a 24-year-old star at the top of her fame, it was an unthinkable decision. For Dolores, it was the only way to find peace. From movie star to sister. When the news came out in 1963 that Dolores Hart had left Hollywood for a convent, the world was shocked. Newspapers put her decision on their front pages. Fans said it had to be a publicity trick, but it wasn't. Dolores had walked away from red carpets, from the glow of fame, and from the man she loved to join the Abbey of Regina Laudis in Bethlehem, Connecticut. Life at the Abbey was the opposite of Hollywood. She got up before sunrise to join the community in prayer, singing in Latin 8 times a day. Her days were filled with simple work, taking care of gardens, milking cows, sewing, and cleaning. The fancy dresses were replaced with a simple nun's outfit. The actress, loved by millions, was now one sister among many, equal before God. For Dolores, it wasn't running away, but being born again. She had given up her possessions, her money, and her career. But she got something she believed was greater: peace in her soul. In time, she made her final promises and became Mother Dolores Hart. People quickly saw her leadership skills, and in 2001 she was named prior, responsible for guiding her sisters and managing the Abbey's direction until 2015. She lived by the rule of Saint Benedict, ora et labora, pray and work. Silence became her treasure, not as emptiness but as space for thinking and devotion. But even in the closed-off life, her past never fully went away. Dolores stayed a voting member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, still getting movies each year to watch and vote on. She also believed in the power of theater as a tool for faith. And with help from Paul Newman and Patricia Neal, she helped create an outdoor theater at the Abbey to serve the local community.